All right, so let's dive into something that you might not have thought about much yet. Banking in 2035.
Yeah.
I know banking might seem about as exciting as watching paint dry, but trust me on this one. This is about way more than just stuffy old buildings and boring numbers. We're talking the future of how you're going to handle your money. Everything from scoring those new sneakers to maybe even buying your first car.
What's really cool is that we're not just talking about like little incremental changes here. It's potential seismic shifts, and they're being driven by some massive trends that are already starting to shape the world. Think about how much your life has already changed, like just in the past few years with social media and smartphones. Now imagine that kind of transformation hitting the financial world.
Okay, so not just like a new app with a slightly different layout.
Yeah, yeah.
We're talking real game changers.
Exactly. We've got this awesome report from Economist Impact, and it lays out some pretty wild scenarios for banking in 2035. And guess what? One of the biggest drivers is something they call the digital revolution. Basically, everything's becoming more connected and data-driven, and that's going to have a huge impact on how we all bank.
So like how we're constantly on our phones scrolling through TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
How does that translate to banking?
Imagine a world where your banking app is just as sleek and intuitive as your favorite social media platform. You can do everything from paying for your pizza delivery to checking your account balance with just a few taps. No more waiting in line at the bank, no more fumbling with checks. It's all about speed, convenience, and personalization.
Okay, that part definitely sounds appealing. But what about security? My parents are always freaking out about online scams and hackers.
Yeah, no, that's a super valid concern. And it's something that the report highlights too. As banking becomes more digital, obviously data privacy and cybersecurity become even more crucial.
Ah,
Think about it. If all your financial info is online, you definitely want to make sure it's protected. The report suggests we could see much tougher rules and regulations to keep your data safe, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
so it's like a double-edged sword, awesome convenience, but with the added responsibility of being super careful online.
Precisely. But the digital revolution isn't the only force shaping the future of banking. Remember the whole financial crisis thing back in 2008?
Hmm.
It really dented people's trust in banks, and they haven't fully recovered.
Yeah, my dad still talks about that like all the time. He's always saying banks can't be trusted.
It's a fair point, and this report explores a scenario where banks actually step up and try to win back that trust. Imagine banks actually using their resources and data to help people who've been traditionally left out of the financial system. Think about people who don't have bank accounts or who struggle to get loans. Banks could use their data to make things fairer and offer better opportunities to those who deserve them.
So like leveling the playing field and making sure everyone has a chance to succeed regardless of their background.
Exactly. This scenario paints a picture of banks becoming more socially responsible and using their power for good. But the big question is, will they actually walk the walk or just talk the talk?
Actions speak louder than words, right? It's not just about saying the right things, it's about actually making a difference. So far, we've got super advanced technology and banks trying to be the good guys. What else is in store for the future of banking?
Well, this is where things get really interesting, especially for you guys. The report dedicates a whole scenario to climate change, but not in a doom and gloom kind of way.
Climate change. I thought that was all about polar bears on melting ice caps.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with banking?
It's all connected. Think about it. If the world is serious about tackling climate change, we're talking about a massive shift towards green energy, electric cars, maybe even flying cars someday. All of that requires massive investments, and guess who's going to be financing a lot of it?
Banks? Seriously.
Yep. Banks will be key players in funding all those cool new green technologies. But they'll also have to figure out how to manage the risks that come with a changing climate. Like, what happens if a flood wipes out a business they've given a loan to? They'll need to be super strategic and adapt to a whole new landscape of challenges and opportunities.
So even if I'm not like a hardcore environmental activist, this stuff will still impact me. Like if banks are investing in green projects, will that change what I can do with my money?
You bet. It's not just about hugging trees, it's about how the entire financial system shifts to support a more sustainable future. And that affects everything from the types of loans that are available to the interest rates you might pay. It's a whole new ballgame.
Okay, so far, we've got some pretty optimistic scenarios, but what if things don't go so well? What happens if the world takes a turn for the worse?
Well, buckle up, because the report explores that possibility too. They call it the fragmented world scenario, and it's basically the opposite of a globalized world. Think more like those dystopian novels you might be reading, but in real life.
Fragmented world. That sounds a little intense. Are we talking like a real-life Hunger Games situation here?
Not quite that dramatic, but it's definitely a world with more division and uncertainty. Imagine a world where different countries or regions form their own economic blocks, each with its own rules and technologies. Think trade wars, different currencies, basically. A lot more complexity in the global economy.
Wait, so the US dollar might not be the big deal it is now? Like, would I need to carry around different currencies if I travel to different countries?
It's a possibility. This scenario suggests that other countries might develop their own digital currencies and payment systems, challenging the dominance of the US dollar. It would definitely make things more complicated for banks as they try to navigate this fragmented landscape.
Wait, now I'm actually feeling a little stressed out. This future of banking stuff is getting real.
It's a lot to take in, but remember, these are just scenarios, not predictions. The point is to think about the possibilities and how they might impact your life down the road.
So, like, what's the takeaway for me, the average teenager who's just trying to figure out how to manage their allowance and maybe snag those new headphones?
Here's the thing. The future of banking is going to be shaped by a ton of factors: technology, trust, global events, and even your own choices and demands. It might seem far off, but the decisions we make today as individuals, as businesses, as a society, will determine which of these scenarios actually plays out.
Okay, I'm starting to get that this is kind of a big deal. But can we break it down a little? What will actually change for me when I'm using banks in the future? Like, will my banking app suddenly become super smart and tell me how to spend my money?
Think about how you use your phone now for literally everything. By 2035, you'll probably be doing most of your banking on it, paying bills, managing your money, even investing. It's like having a financial advisor right in your pocket, but hopefully one that speaks your language and understands your goals.
Okay, that part sounds pretty cool. But what about those other factors, like trust and global events? How will those impact my everyday banking?
Well, if banks don't step up and rebuild trust, people might start looking for alternatives. Remember those digital currencies we talked about? Those could gain traction if people lose faith in traditional banks. And if the world becomes more fragmented, things like sending money internationally or traveling could become way more complicated and expensive.
So it's like a choose-your-own-adventure story, and we're all writing it together.
Exactly. And the choices we make will have real consequences for everyone. So, yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
But in a good way, right? It's pretty exciting to think about all the possibilities. The future of banking is full of potential, both good and bad. And it's up to all of us to shape it in a way that benefits everyone.
I guess you're right. It is kind of thrilling to imagine how much things could change. But can we get back to that whole banks becoming more like my favorite app thing? Because that's definitely a future I can get behind.
Of course. Let's delve deeper into what that might look like. Remember that transformed banks regain trust scenario we talked about earlier? That's where things get really interesting for your generation.
Okay, tell me more. What's so special about this scenario for teens like me?
This scenario is all about banks embracing the digital revolution and using it to create a better, more inclusive, and honestly more fun banking experience. Think about those clunky bank websites your parents might still use. By 2035, those could be ancient history, replaced with apps that are as slick and engaging as the platforms you use every day.
Good riddance.
Yeah.
But what would replace them? Will they be all flashy and colorful like those mobile games I play?
Imagine if your banking app was as visually appealing and easy to navigate as TikTok or Instagram. You can do everything on your phone, pay your bills, send money to friends, even apply for a loan, all with just a few taps. And it would learn your habits and preferences, so it could offer personalized recommendations and insights tailored to your goals.
Okay, I'm liking this already.
Uh-huh.
So, like, it would understand that I'm saving up for a new skateboard and give me tips on how to reach my goal faster.
Exactly. And if you're thinking about buying your first car, it could help you compare loan options and figure out how to manage your monthly payments. It's all about making banking easier, more accessible, and honestly, more relevant to your life.
That sounds way better than the banking experience my parents have. I can already see myself ditching the piggy bank and going all digital.
It is a pretty big shift. And one of the most exciting things about this scenario is the concept of open banking.
Open banking. What's that? Is it like those open mic nights they have at coffee shops, but for banking?
Not quite, but it's about opening up possibilities. Imagine if banks could share your financial data with other companies, but with your permission, of course. This could create a whole new ecosystem of personalized financial services, all tailored to your needs.
Wait, share my data. Why would I want companies to know all my spending habits? That sounds a little creepy.
I get it, it does raise privacy concerns. But think about the potential benefits. Imagine being able to see all of your financial accounts, bank accounts, credit cards, even investments all in one place, even if they're from different companies. Or being able to shop around for the best deals on loans or insurance based on your specific financial profile.
So it's like having all my financial information at my fingertips, even if it's scattered across different companies. That could be super convenient, especially if I'm trying to keep track of all my expenses.
Exactly. And it could lead to a whole new level of personalized financial advice and services. Imagine getting recommendations for budgeting apps, investment opportunities, or even deals on things you love, all based on your spending habits and financial goals.
Okay, now I'm really starting to see how different banking could be in 2035. It's like a whole new world, but one that's built around me and my needs.
It is, but remember, all of this is based on the idea that banks will actually regain people's trust. They'll need to prove that they're using technology responsibly and putting their customers' interests first.
I get it. So it's not just about the cool tech. It's about banks using it for good and actually caring about what their customers want.
Exactly, and that's where things get really interesting for your generation. You guys are digital natives, you've grown up with this technology, and you understand its power.
Yeah, we practically came out of the womb holding smartphones.
Right, and that means you have the power to hold banks accountable and demand a better banking experience. You can push for more transparency, more security, and more ethical use of data. You can vote with your wallets and choose banks that align with your values.
So we're not just passive bystanders in this whole future of banking thing. We actually have a say in how things unfold.
Absolutely not. You have a voice, and you can use it to shape the future of finance. You can be the generation that demands a banking system that's fair, innovative, and puts people before profits.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling more empowered now. This is way more interesting than I thought it would be.
It is a fascinating topic, and there's still so much more to explore. What do you say we dive into that climate change scenario next? It might surprise you how much it could impact your financial future.
Let's do it. I'm ready to learn more about how banks and climate change are all connected. This is turning out to be way more interesting than I thought it would be.
I told you it would be cool. Let's imagine a future where banks are basically superheroes fighting climate change with their wallets.
Okay, that I've got to hear. Bring on the financial superheroes.
All right, so picture this. It's 2035, and you're scrolling through your banking app. But it's not just about checking your balance or paying bills. It's about tracking your carbon footprint. It's about comparing the environmental impact of different purchases, and maybe even investing in renewable energy projects, all within the same app.
Wait, hold up. My banking app would care about my carbon footprint. Isn't that like more of an environmentalist thing?
That's the whole point. This scenario explores a future where sustainability is it's integrated into every aspect of our lives, including banking. Remember we talked about those massive investments needed to combat climate change? Well, banks would be at the forefront, financing things like solar farms, wind turbines, and even those futuristic electric flying cars we all dream about.
So banks would be like the financial Avengers, assembling to save the planet.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just funding, cool green projects. Banks would also need to manage the financial risks that come with climate change. Think about extreme weather events like floods, droughts, wildfires. Those can disrupt businesses, damage property, and impact entire communities.
Okay, that does sound pretty risky. How would banks even begin to deal with all that?
They'd need to become super savvy about assessing those risks. Let's say you're applying for a loan to buy a house near the coast. In this future, your bank would consider the potential impact of rising sea levels and make sure you're prepared for those risks before lending you the money.
So it's like they'd be factoring in climate change when making any kind of financial decision.
Yeah,
That's a whole new level of responsibility.
it is, and it would require them to think long term and consider the environmental impact of their choices. But there's also a huge opportunity here. Remember we talked about ESG investing. That's where it all comes together.
Okay, refresh my memory. ESG investing, what was that all about again?
It stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance Investing. Basically, it means that investors, including banks, are looking beyond just profits. They're also considering a company's impact on the environment, social issues, and how well they're governed.
So, like, if a company is polluting the environment or treating their workers unfairly, ESG investors would avoid them like a bad date.
Exactly. They would invest in companies that are doing the right thing for the planet and for people. And in this climate-conscious future, ESG investing could become, like, mainstream, not just a niche thing.
So my banking app could actually help me invest in companies that are making a positive impact.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's like using my money to vote for the kind of future I want to see.
That's the power of it. You could literally be banking on a greener future. Imagine being able to track the environmental impact of your investments and see how your money is contributing to a more sustainable world.
Okay, I'm totally digging this scenario. But we've also got to talk about that fragmented world scenario, the one where everything kind of goes sideways.
You're right, we can't just focus on the positive possibilities. We also need to be prepared for potential challenges. Remember, in this scenario, globalization has stalled and the world is more divided into like regional blocks.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of those like post-apocalyptic movies where everyone is fighting over resources. Hopefully it wouldn't be that bad, but still, how would that even affect my everyday banking?
Well, for starters, it could make things more expensive. Think about all the things you buy that come from different parts of the world, clothes, electronics, even food. If there are more trade barriers and tariffs, those prices could go up.
So like my favorite sneakers would suddenly cost way more because they were made in a different country.
Exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Remember, we talked about the US dollar potentially losing its global dominance. In a fragmented world, other countries might develop their own digital currencies and payment systems, making it more complicated to send money internationally or travel abroad.
Wait, so if I wanted to like study abroad in Europe or backpack through Southeast Asia,
hmm
I'd need to figure out a whole bunch of different currencies. That sounds like a huge headache.
It could definitely make things more complicated, potentially more expensive, especially if exchange rates are constantly fluctuating.
Okay, this scenario is
Yeah.
definitely not sounding as fun as the others. It's like the fun killer of the future of banking.
I get it.
It's not the most optimistic outlook, but it's important to consider all the possibilities. Even in a more fragmented world, banks would still play a crucial role, helping businesses navigate those complexities and finding new opportunities in emerging markets.
So even if things get a little chaotic, banks would still be around to help us figure things out.
Exactly. They'd need to be more innovative and adaptable than ever before. Think about banks specializing in specific regions, or developing financial products that cater to the unique needs of those markets. It'd be a whole new ballgame, but with new challenges come new opportunities. Okay, I'm starting to see how this whole future of banking thing is about way more than just apps and technology. It's about global trends, trust, responsibility, and adapting to whatever the world throws our way.
Exactly. And it's something that will affect all of us, no matter where we live or what we do.
Okay, my mind is officially overflowing with information. What are some key takeaways we should be thinking about? What's the big picture here?
Well, one thing's for sure. The future of banking is going to be shaped by technology, whether it's those super sleek banking apps or the rise of digital currencies. But technology is just a tool. The real question is how we use it to create a better, fairer, and more sustainable financial system.
Okay, that makes sense. We've talked a lot about the impact of technology, but what about the human side of things? What about trust and ethics?
Those are absolutely crucial. No matter how advanced the technology becomes, banks will only succeed if they can regain people's trust. They'll need to prove that they're using technology responsibly, protecting our privacy, and putting their customers' interests first.
Yeah, my dad always says trust is earned, not given. And I think that applies to banks too.
Absolutely. Banks need to be more transparent about their fees and practices, make their products and services easier to understand, and really focus on building strong relationships with their customers.
So it's not just about being trustworthy, it's also about being customer-centric and understanding what people actually need.
Exactly. Banks are starting to realize that they need to treat their customers like individuals, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. And that means listening to their needs, providing personalized advice, and creating a banking experience that's actually enjoyable.
Okay, so it's a two-way street. Banks need to step up and earn our trust. And we need to be informed and engage customers, holding them accountable for their actions.
Precisely. And that's where your generation comes in. As digital natives, you have a lot of power to shape the future of banking. You can demand transparency, ethical practices, and a commitment to customer service.
So it's like we're the future of banking's quality control team.
In a way, yes. You have the power to shape the industry and demand better from the institutions that manage our money.
Okay, I'm feeling pretty empowered now. This is way more interesting than I thought it would be.
It is a fascinating topic, and it's one that will continue to evolve in the coming years.
I'm ready to keep exploring.
Hmm.
What else should we be paying attention to as we think about the future of banking? What are some of the things that might not be on our radar yet but could have a big impact?
Well, let's talk about something that's often overlooked, the social impact of banking. It's not just about making money, it's about using finance to create a more just and equitable society.
Okay, so it's like banks having a social conscience. Like they should care about more than just profits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've already talked about ESG investing and the role of banks in financing a green economy, but there's more to it than that. Banks can also play a role in promoting financial inclusion, supporting small businesses, and investing in underserved communities.
Wait, financial inclusion, what does that even mean? Is it like some kind of exclusive club I need to get into?
Not at all. It means making sure that everyone has access to essential financial services, regardless of their income, background, or location. Think about things like having a bank account, being able to get a loan, or even just understanding how to manage your money.
So like making sure everyone has the tools and resources they need to succeed financially,
Yeah.
even if they're not rich or don't live in a fancy neighborhood?
Exactly. And it's a big issue around the world. Millions of people are still unbanked, which means they're excluded from the formal financial system.
Wow, I didn't realize that was such a problem. So how can banks help? Can they just, like, give everyone free money?
Well, not exactly free money, but they can make banking more accessible and affordable for everyone. They can offer products and services designed for low-income customers, like no-fee bank accounts and microloans. They can also invest in financial literacy programs to help people understand how to manage their money and build a better future.
So it's like banks becoming more community-minded and helping everyone get ahead, not just the people who already have a lot of money.
Exactly. And it's not just about doing the right thing, it's also good business. By serving a wider range of customers, banks can expand their market and create new revenue streams.
Okay, so it's a win-win situation. Banks are helping to create a more inclusive society and boosting their bottom line at the same time. That sounds like
Yeah.
a pretty good deal.
Precisely. And it's a trend that's gaining momentum. More and more banks are recognizing the importance of social impact and are incorporating it into their strategies.
That's really encouraging to hear. It sounds like the future of banking could be much more than just about money. It could be about creating a better world for everyone.
I agree. And it's a future that your generation will have a huge influence on.
Okay, I'm ready to hear more about that. What can we do to make sure the future of banking is a positive one?
Well, for starters, you can stay informed about the issues and trends we've been discussing. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to make informed choices about your finances and the institutions you support.
So like doing my homework and not just blindly trusting whatever I see on social media.
Exactly. You can also support banks and financial institutions that are committed to sustainability, ethics, and social impact.
So like choosing a bank that aligns with my values and actually walks the walk, not just talks the talk.
Exactly. You can vote with your wallet and your voice. You can also advocate for policies that promote financial inclusion, protect consumer rights, and ensure that technology is used responsibly.
Okay, so it's not just about choosing the right bank. It's about being an active citizen and shaping the future of finance.
Exactly. And it's a role that your generation is uniquely qualified for. You're digital natives, you're passionate about social justice, and you're not afraid to challenge the status quo.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot more inspiring than just thinking about interest rates and bank fees.
It is. The future of banking is full of possibilities, and it's up to all of us to create a system that works for everyone.
I'm ready to be a part of that. But before we wrap up this part, I have one question that's been bugging me.
Sure, fire away. What's on your mind?
What if I just don't trust banks? Like, what if I'm not convinced that they've really changed their ways and are actually committed to being more ethical and customer focused?
That's a fair point. Remember that whole trust thing we talked about? It's a big deal. And banks, they know they messed up. They're trying to win back our confidence, but it's a slow process. And for some people, that might not be enough.
Exactly. So what are my options if I'm just not buying it?
Right.
Do I have to stuff my money under my mattress and hope for the best?
That's where things get really interesting. Remember that fragmented world scenario. One of the big trends that could emerge is the rise of alternative financial systems.
Alternative systems. You mean like those barter systems where people trade chickens for vegetables?
Not quite that old school, but the idea is that we might not be so reliant on traditional banks in the future. Think about things like digital currencies, peer-to-peer payment platforms, and even community-based financial institutions.
So like cutting out the middleman, the big banks, and doing things ourselves.
Exactly. And in a world that's becoming more fragmented, these alternatives could become even more appealing. They might offer more transparency, lower fees, and a greater sense of control over your own money.
Okay, that's starting to sound pretty appealing. But are these alternatives, like, safe and reliable? What if I lose all my money in some shady cryptocurrency scheme?
That's a valid concern, and it's one that we'll need to carefully consider. Any new financial system comes with its own set of risks and challenges.
So, like, buyer beware. I need to do my research and not just jump into anything that sounds cool or promises to make me rich quick.
Exactly. It's important to be informed and understand the potential risks before diving into any new financial system. But the good news is that as these alternatives gain popularity, we'll likely see more regulation and oversight to protect consumers.
Okay, so it's all about staying informed and making smart choices, like being a responsible citizen of the financial world.
Exactly. And it's about being open to new possibilities and recognizing that the way we bank and manage our money is constantly evolving. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, and what works for one person might not work for another.
Okay, I'm definitely getting that message loud and clear. So what's the biggest takeaway from all of this? What's the one thing I should remember as I navigate this crazy future of banking?
Here's the thing. The future of banking is not something that's happening to us. It's something that we're creating. Our choices, our demands, our actions, they will shape the financial landscape.
So like we have the power to create a banking system that works for us, not the other way around. We're not just stuck with whatever the big banks decide to do.
Exactly. You guys are the future, and you have a voice. Don't be afraid to use it to demand transparency, fairness, and a financial system that aligns with your values.
Okay, I'm feeling pretty inspired now. It's like we're all financial superheroes, ready to shape the future of money.
That's the spirit. But before we get carried away, I want to leave you with one final thought. Remember all those megatrends we talked about at the beginning? The digital revolution, climate change, globalization, and inequality.
Yeah, those big, scary forces that are shaping the world. The ones that make me feel like I need to hide under my covers and never come out.
Well, here's the thing. Those forces are interconnected. They're all influencing each other, and they're all shaping the future of banking.
So, like, it's not just about picking a scenario and saying, that's what's going to happen. The future's more complicated than that.
Exactly. The reality is likely to be much more complex and nuanced. We might see elements of all three scenarios playing out in different ways.
Okay, so it's all about being prepared for anything. Like having a financial survival kit with tools and strategies to adapt to whatever comes my way.
In a way, yes. But it's also about recognizing that we have agency. We're not just passive observers of these trends, we're active participants in shaping them.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not just about banking. It's of the future of our world.
Exactly, and it's a future that we're creating together.
I'm ready to play my part. Thanks for this incredible deep dive. I'm feeling way more informed and way more empowered to face whatever the future holds.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Okay, everyone, that wraps up this part of our deep dive into the future of banking. We've covered a lot of ground, from super-powered banking apps that fight climate change to the possibility of ditching banks altogether and forging our own financial path.
Remember, the choices you make today will shape the financial landscape of tomorrow. Stay informed, stay engaged, and don't be afraid to demand a banking system that works for everyone.
And with that bombshell of a thought, we'll leave you to ponder your own financial future. Okay, so we've talked about these crazy scenarios for the future of banking, everything from banks becoming climate warriors to the rise of alternative financial systems. But let's get real for a sec. What does all this mean for me right now as a teenager? Like, I can't exactly invest in a solar farm or start my own digital currency just yet.
True, you probably don't have that kind of cash flow yet. But here's the cool part. You can start building good financial habits today that will set you up for success no matter what the future throws your way. Think of it like training for a marathon. You don't just show up and start running. You need to build up your strength and endurance over time.
Okay, so like what kind of financial training are we talking about? I'm not exactly thrilled about the idea of reading boring finance textbooks.
No worries, it's way more exciting than that. First things first, financial literacy. The more you understand about money, the better equipped you'll be to make smart decisions and avoid those financial facepalm moments.
Okay, but financial literacy sounds kind of intimidating. Like, am I supposed to become a walking encyclopedia of interest rates and stock market jargon?
Not at all. It's about understanding the basics and having the confidence to manage your money. Think of it like learning a new language. You don't need to be fluent right away. Just start with the basics and build from there.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. But how do we even start?
Good news. You're already doing it.
Yeah.
By listening to this deep dive, you're taking a huge step towards becoming more financially savvy. But beyond that, there are tons of resources out there that make learning about money fun and engaging. Think websites, podcasts, YouTube channels, even some cool financial influencers on TikTok.
Wait, there are finance people on TikTok. That's actually kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so finding ways to learn about money without falling asleep is step one. What else should I be doing?
Another crucial skill is budgeting. I know, it might sound about as exciting as sorting socks, but trust me, it's a game changer.
Ugh. Budgeting. My parents are always on me about that. They're like broken records. Track your spending. Make a budget. Don't blow all your money on video games.
They're not wrong. Think of a budget as a roadmap for your money. It helps you see where your money is going and make sure you're not spending more than you earn. It's about being in control and making conscious choices about how you use your hard-earned cash.
Okay, but what if I don't even have that much money to budget? I'm just working a part-time job and trying to save up for, like, concert tickets and new clothes. Does budgeting even matter at this point?
Absolutely. Even if you're only dealing with small amounts, budgeting can help you prioritize your spending and reach your goals faster. Let's say you really want those new headphones or that awesome concert ticket. A budget can help you figure out how to make it happen without going broke.
So, like, I could figure out how many lattes I need to give up to buy those new sneakers,
Right.
or how many hours I need to work to afford that music festival ticket.
Exactly. It's about making trade-offs and being mindful of your spending. And there are tons of apps and online tools that can help you track your expenses and create a budget that fits your lifestyle.
Okay, I'm starting to see how budgeting could be useful, even for someone like me who's just starting out. It's like a financial GPS, guiding me toward my goals.
I love that analogy. And speaking of goals, another crucial habit to develop is saving. It might seem obvious, but it's amazing how many people struggle with this, no matter how much money they make.
Okay, but saving is hard. There are always so many things I want to buy: new clothes, video games, that awesome new phone everyone is talking about. How am I supposed to resist all that temptation?
I get it, it's tough. But trust me, the sooner you start saving, even small amounts, the better off you'll be in the long run. Think of it like planting a seed. It might seem tiny at first, but with time and consistent effort, it can grow into something amazing.
But what if I can only save a little bit each month? Like 5 or 10 bucks. Does that even make a difference?
Absolutely. Even small amounts can add up over time, especially if you start early and let the magic of compound interest work its magic. It's like building a muscle. You start with small weights and gradually increase the load as you get stronger.
Okay, that's a pretty cool way to think about it. So even if I can only save a few bucks here and there, it's still a step in the right direction.
Totally. And there are lots of ways to make saving easier and even fun. You can set up automatic transfers from your checking account to your savings account so you're saving without even thinking about it. Or you can use apps that round up your purchases and invest the spare change.
Wait, invest my spare change? That sounds interesting. Is that even possible?
It is, and it's a great way to dip your toes into the world of investing without taking on a lot of risk.
Okay, investing, that's another thing my parents always talk about, but it always seems so complicated and confusing.
I get it. It can feel intimidating at first. But investing is basically just putting your money to work for you. Instead of letting your savings sit in a bank account earning next to nothing in interest, you can invest it in things like stocks, bonds, or even real estate with the goal of growing your money over time.
Okay, but isn't investing super risky? Like, what if I lose all my money and end up back at square one?
It's true that there's always some risk involved, but the key is to educate yourself and make informed decisions. Don't just blindly follow what your friends are doing or jump into something you don't understand.
So, like, not just buying whatever stock is trending on TikTok.
Exactly. Do your research, understand the potential risks and rewards, and start small. There are tons of resources available to help you learn about investing, and you can always talk to a financial advisor if you need guidance.
Okay, this is starting to make more sense. So we've got financial literacy, budgeting, saving, and investing. What else should I be thinking about as I prepare for this wild future of banking?
Here's a crucial one: security. As banking becomes more digital, it's more important than ever to protect yourself from fraud and identity theft. Think of it like guarding your online fortress.
Okay, that's definitely something my parents would agree with.
Yeah.
They're always warning me about scams and hackers and telling me to be careful what I click on.
And they're right to be cautious. The digital world is like a wild west. There are a lot of opportunities, but there are also a lot of dangers lurking around every corner.
So how do I protect myself? Do I need to become some kind of cybersecurity expert?
You don't need to be a hacker to stay safe. It starts with basic things like using strong passwords and being careful about what information you share online. Don't click on suspicious links, and be wary of anyone who asks for your banking details over email or text message.
Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. But sometimes those phishing scams are really convincing.
That's why it's important to stay informed about the latest scams and to be extra cautious. And if something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Good point. So, strong passwords, being cautious online, and trusting my gut instinct. Got it. What else?
It's also a good idea to monitor your bank accounts and credit card statements regularly. Look for any unauthorized transactions or anything that seems fishy.
So, like being a financial detective, constantly on the lookout for suspicious activity.
Exactly. And if you do notice anything out of the ordinary, report it to your bank immediately. Don't wait and hope it goes away. Take action and protect yourself.
Okay, I'm starting to see how important it is to be proactive about my financial security. It's like being a superhero, defending my hard-earned cash from those online villains.
I love that analogy. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. There are tons of resources available to help you stay safe online, and your bank can also provide guidance and support. Think of them as your financial sidekicks.
Okay, I'm feeling way more confident now. So to sum it all up, the future of banking is about being informed, adaptable, security conscious, and maybe even a little bit of a superhero.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that you have the power to shape your own financial destiny. You're not just a passive passenger on this ride. You're the one behind the wheel.
Wow, that's pretty empowering. Thanks for all the insights. I feel like I'm actually ready to take on the future of banking no matter what it throws my way.
That's awesome to hear. And remember, the future is full of possibilities. It's up to all of us to create a financial system that's fair, sustainable, and accessible to everyone. And who knows, maybe you'll even be one of the pioneers who help create that future.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the future of banking. It's been an incredible journey, and I've learned so much.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you. Remember, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The future of banking is in your hands.
And that's a wrap for this episode of The Deep Dive. We've explored the exciting and sometimes a little scary possibilities of banking in 2035, and we've learned that the future of finance is not something that's just happening to us, it's something we're creating together.
Whether it's embracing the latest technology, demanding more ethical practices, or exploring alternative financial systems, the choices you make today will shape the financial landscape of tomorrow. So stay informed, stay empowered, and don't be afraid to make your voice heard. The future of banking is yours to shape.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring the world around you. You never know what amazing discoveries await.